Hello everybody, I am Whittler Fam and welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be taking a look at some of the videos, some of the top cut matches from a League Cup I had the pleasure of hosting here just a couple weeks ago at Phoenix Reborn Games and Hobby in Carthage, Illinois. This is one of 3 top cut videos we recorded for this series. And overall, it was a lot of fun. All the trainers had a blast, and we're just going to take a look at some of the videos and do a little bit of commentary. This is the Battle Styles through Paldea Evolved format. So this is the format that we will be looking to see at Worlds this year at Yokohama, Japan. So hopefully some of these videos will give you a little bit of insight into some of the decks that players are playing. And so on the left we have Jonathon K with the Ting-Lu EX deck, making it in the top 8 versus Dillon Barta with Gardevoir EX. So one new deck on the block, on the scene, coming in, playing that Ting-Lu EX that shuts off abilities on any of your opponent's Pokemon that have damage counters on it, as long as it's in the active spot. Now, unfortunately, we do have a little bit of a glare, so we do apologize for that. You're not going to see a lot of the cards going on there, but it does look like we're playing a nest ball to grab. Not even a nest ball, that would be a VIP pass, probably. Again, you can see, yeah, VIP. You can see it when it hits the discard pile. You just unfortunately cannot see it when it hits the table. So we do apologize for that. But either way, he's getting a strong setup. The only thing that I do notice is that not hitting all the energy needed to attack the following turn is what it looked like. So he can put on pressure if he can start putting on damage counters. The one thing I did see with John in this game is that he overbenched, and I'm not sure if he meant to do this, but by not leaving a space open, he left himself not able to play the Hawlucha in the next turn, because as soon as 2 Ralts hit the bench, you want to play that Hawlucha down, put the damage counters on the 2 Raltses, and then just stop the Kirlias from using the refinement. So with this bench locked up, it does appear Dillon is just going to go ahead and start setting up his board. It's going to take a little time for Gardevoir to get going, of course, as Gardevoir decks often do. So hot start for John, except for getting all the energy. So let's take a look at that hand. He does have another way to dig. He plays the 4 Gutsy Pickaxe in his deck, as well as the 4 Trekking Shoes. So 4 VIP Pass, 4 Gutsy Pickaxe, 4 Trekking Shoes, all the things you need to start digging. And it looks like he just throws him the Judge. So instead of opting to just go with Iono in his deck, he's also playing Judge in his deck for hand disruption. He wants to consistently keep the hand size down on the Gardevoir player. And Gardevoir player, much like Lost Box players, do want to keep a pretty big hand. Usually it's the Gardevoir player that wants to be doing the hand disruption. But looking over at Dillon's side, doesn't look to be too bad. Again, whiffing the energy, not getting a turn 2 attack even. So even though Koraidon EX was able to get that energy onto the Ting-Lu EX, he still did not have enough energy in the discard pile, or enough energy from hand from any of the draws to start attacking and knocking out Pokemon, which is very unfortunate for him. That level ball is going to grab Kirlia. Going to start using refinement to get rid of VIP. You do not need it anymore. Yeah, Dillon just has to take his time, slowly setting up. He's not going to need the Cresselia in this matchup, per se. Although it wouldn't be too bad, because if damage counters did start coming out and start spreading in later turns, Cresselia could theoretically use the 1 energy attack to move all the damage counters and take an easy knockout on the Spiritomb. However, I think the prize map here is pretty obvious. With that psychic weakness on Koraidon EX, Gardevoir just wants to knock out, or even Zacian V wants to knock out the Koraidon, as well as set up a bunch of energy on a Pokemon to take a big knockout on Ting-Lu. Ting-Lu is not weak to Psychic. It is weak to Grass. And with a pesky Bravery Charm on the Ting-Lu EX, it's also going to gain 50 more HP, making it very difficult. But either way, because the pressure is not being put on Dillon in this game, Gardevoir can just happily two-shot the Ting-Lu EX in the active. And so, again, some unfortunate draws. So what's John have to do? He's probably going to have to try and strand something in the active with Boss's Orders. Before he does that, he's going to Ultra Ball away some cards and search for another Pokemon, just to thin his deck, just to make it a lot easier to, churn through the deck even quicker. Yeah, an unfortunate start for the Ting-Lu deck that was running pretty hot the whole tournament scene from what I remember. Yeah, so Boss's Orders out, a Greninja. Yeah, kind of unfortunate you have to do that, because that means, you're stranding that Pokemon out there. Because if you put the Gardevoir out there, unfortunately, the Gardevoir can also start attacking, just because of Gardevoir's EX's ability to just start putting energy from the discard pile onto, say, single prize Gardevoir. And all you need is the one energy to retreat, of course, for Greninja. And the other thing is, even though the Ting-Lu EX is in the active, that ability does not shut off abilities on EX Pokemon. And Gardevoir EX is an EX Pokemon, so it will happily continue to use its Psychic Embrace despite having any damage counters on it. And again, two-shotting that Ting-Lu EX is going to work out for Dillon here. So he's just trying to decide where he wants to put energy at the moment. So he's probably just going to wait, take the knockout, and see what he sends out. Of course, he's going to promote the Spiritomb, which is probably not going to be helpful in this matchup. Get another Ting-Lu set. Get some energy on one Ting-Lu. And he's just going to have to end his turn using Koraidon EX. Again, pretty unfortunate start for John, and he's just trying to play catch-up this entire game at this point. And I think Gardevoir EX also has that 30 damage resistance that can be really cumbersome against a deck like this. Ultra Balling away more energy, grabbing the Zacian V, which can pretty much seal up a victory for this. Yeah, so not much for him to do. Just take a one prize knockout and see if John's got the moves to catch up. He discards the energy, chooses not to keep it, hoping that he could just stall out another turn. Now, I'm not sure what he played there. Oh, he played a Research. Just discard a hand, draw 7. Switch card to put forward a Pokemon. Hawlucha getting the damage counters on again, so can shut off Shining Arcana on the single prize Gardevoir, but again, not shutting off the important ability on the EX Pokemon, but getting his first knockout and taking a prize. But, it just looks like it might be a little too late for the poor Ting-Lu deck right now. It just needed a bit too much to catch up in this game. And Gardevoir is one of those decks where if you let them set up too long and they go ahead, all they have to do is set up 3 different attackers, and you can see the writing on the wall right there. And Iono resetting their hands. And of course he's going to 3, but because he's got 2 Gardevoirs pretty much set up, one Gardevoir with 3 energy, another Gardevoir on the back row that can start attacking and two-shotting things really Dillon, all he needs is a boss's orders to bring up Koraidon and take the game because of that psychic weakness. Looks like another judge coming down from Jonathon. No, that was an Iono. That darn glare, I'm so sorry for that. Yeah, John is just trying to piece together a potential sort of strategy here that, again, he's just on the back end, and it's probably, unfortunately, not going to pay off for him. The one thing I will say, though, is if Dillon doesn't hit a boss out, of course, he constantly does have to do this two-shot war, the same way that Ting-Lu would have to in that instance. So with the Ting-Lu spreading damage counters as it does, you are slowly setting up Gardevoir to be easier to knock out with one hit. But again, the better strategy here is, even if it doesn't have the energy, you could just attack with the Gardevoir EX, because it's big and tanky the same way that the Ting-Lu is. So all that energy from Psychic Embrace will be enough to knock out the Ting-Lu, and they'll go to game 2. And Jonathon is really hoping to have a much better setup going in to game 2. Definitely not one of Ting-Lu's favorite matchups, to be sure, and I do believe John was able to dodge and weave that matchup the entire tournament. But of course, going into Top Cut with the only Gardevoir player, eventually you may have to face it, depending on the matchups. And with Dillon being the highest seed and John being the lowest seed in this Top Cut, it's best to just get this matchup out of the way and see what you can do. So it looks like a mulligan draw is going to be going to Dillon, while John will be yet again shuffling up and hoping to get that saucy start. It did look like he opened with the Hawlucha, which is definitely not the start you want to be on. Trekking shoes into a boss, hoping to grab something else. But because he chose to go first, he's got Gapejaw Bog. It was a Squawkabilly EX that he started with. That makes a little more sense, because he just discarded his hand and drew 6 cards, so. Ting-Lu, Alakazam, and putting a bunch of damage counters down on his own Pokemon, which is not something he really wants to do. But it is definitely something he wants his opponent to do. Because if he can stop refinement early, that is all part of the plan. But, of course, VIP Pass will get around that. When you play VIP Pass, they go straight to the bench. You don't play them from your hand. And he has the Stadium Bump, of course, to thwart that plan as well. So, Gardevoir EX looks like it has all the right answers at all the right times going into this matchup. Good for Dillon, not great for John. And even though he did discard a bunch of resources from that research, he was able to hit the Super Rod and shuffle a bunch of Pokemon back into the deck to fight another day. John top decks a Bravery Charm, giving him yet again more HP, but not enough energy to attack. Again, needing to go with the boss stranding strategy, going with the Radiant Greninja. If he has to waste putting energy on the Radiant Greninja, even though it's going to end up in the discard pile, it's one less attachment that he's going to have to worry about. It just feels bad moment, honestly, where some really unfortunate starts for John. And you can almost see on John's face where he's like, okay, I see where this is going. It's just going to be an uphill battle for me yet again. Just showcasing the sheer power and sheer magnitude of Gardevoir as you just slowly watch this board set up. If you don't have a way to remove a whole board, which very few decks do, you're just going to be facing this inevitable wall of Gardevoirs and Zacian V and Psychic Energy. All these fun things that just keep throwing themselves at you. So Dillon gets the penny, which means he's able to pick up the Radiant Greninja, put it into his hand. And of course he can bench it and start discarding energy again. But he's just going to end his turn, attaching energy to the active, and yet again seeing if the fate of John is left to really bad top decks. Three Curlias set up on the right side of the board, and yeah, it almost seems like too good to be true. Gardevoir just does Gardevoir things. It does look like a knockout is coming this way. After all, it is Squawkability that's still stuck in the active, taking 2 prizes and taking yet again another crazy lead. Yep, nothing he can do. Now, he could have committed his resources and could have just said, yeah, I'm going to hit the energy, I'm going to promote the Ting-Lu, but he also knows that he needs some sort of insurance policy. He needs to be able to hit a Pokemon that he wants to hit. So an escape rope is really badly needed, and he's just not hitting those cards, unfortunately. So, needless to say, the Gardevoir player here on the right, Dillon, is probably pretty comfortable with his position at this point. He is ahead, there's nothing super threatening on the board, so Gardevoir can just relax, take its time, get a drink. Which only means the pressure is on as we enter top 4 and finals in these next few videos. Radiant Alakazam goes down. A Ting-Lu is, I believe it still just has 2 fighting energy on it. And of course he pitched the escape rope early. And John is just conceding at this point. Is just unfortunate end to the Ting-Lu run, seeing that there's just, yeah, it's just too little too late, too far down. And